Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me today on J Slay USA, where we explore truth, expose deception, and inspire courage. And guys, along my journey of doing this, whether I'm on Instagram or whether, Facebook, or Rumble or any of the places, I'm always coming across new faces, people that are speaking into something going on in culture, and maybe they're bringing an insight to it or saying it in a way that is not currently being said, or maybe I just like their style and think this person's going to make a dent, and I really like what they're speaking into. And Bridget Bosco is absolutely one of those. I found her on Instagram. She was making, I believe early on I found her, she was making some Instagram reels, so these little 90-second clips about stuff with Charlie Kirk and Turning Point, or about how institutional Christian conservatives who are in the news or have a platform are not talking about Epstein at all, even though they may be all the time talking about protecting children or fighting pedophilia or anything to do with protecting the innocence of children. And they're just being quiet about it. So I really liked what she had to say there. We had a conversation and I realized this is somebody that if she wants to can go places in this, but not for that reason. The point is bringing us in the American, really globally at this point, we want to get closer to truth so that if we're going to fight for things, we can fight for things with good allies at our side and fight for the real things. And I think Bridget is definitely somebody that's going to be a big part of that. So Bridget is a recovering traditional conservative who's only recently realized the game being played with our lives by powerful pedophiles, or is being played by powerful pedophiles on both sides of the aisle. And I would add to that, and their handlers. They don't necessarily have to be a pedophile themselves to be protecting the system. Prior to this awakening, Bridget worked on Capitol Hill in right-wing news broadcasting and for several conservative nonprofits, including Live Action, Exodus Cry, and the Heritage Foundation. She's fascinated by cults, religious abuse, and the gift of free will and what people choose to do with it. Bridget, thanks for coming on today. Great to have you.
Thank you, Jeremy. I'm stoked to be here.
All right. Well, we were talking about the left-right paradigm, and I'm going to let you open it up today. You have been passionate calling out those on your own side, and I know the pitfalls and the hardships that come along with that. What was the first thing, let's say post Charlie's assassination, that came into your awareness and you were like, something's wrong here, and the organizations that I've been a part of or not a part of, but what was the first thing that happened? You were like, something's not resonating. This is off.
Sure. Well, the very first thing I noticed, which was the day after he died, was Erica's appearance in his podcast room. That right away, I mean, we had it up on the TV. I had followed Erica. I had followed TPUSA. I had reached out to them about selling the freedom shirts he was wearing, because they'd already made a ton of merch after he died, but none of them were the freedom shirt. And I was like, you know what, guys, we'd rather buy it from you than some random Etsy shop. So I woke up on September 11th fully on board with the organization and with Erica. And then her first appearance was just off. And I turned to my sister and I said, she's either in shock and this is a performance that she's just pushing through for survival, or something is very off. And then, of course, appearance after appearance, it just started to become more and more evident that this was not a one-off. The second thing I noticed among conservatives, and this was obviously right away because it was right after Charlie died. So within the first week of Charlie's death, it became abundantly clear to me that all of a sudden, all these conservative figureheads who I had followed for years were claiming that Charlie was their best friend. And just in that cloudy, grifty kind of way where you're just like, ugh, like this guy just got killed. A lot of us watched it happen. It's one thing to honor your friend's death. It's another to seize this as an opportunity to get engagement on your page. And Live Action, and we can talk more about them as the show goes on, is an organization I used to work at, and they right away made a whole reel for Charlie. And of course it was inspiring and beautiful, but it just felt like everybody, Ali Stuckey, Benny Johnson, or whatever his name is, Benny.
Yeah, Benny Johnson. Yeah, you got it.
Sounded too English or something. Like just everybody, all of a sudden, it's the picture with Charlie and he was my best friend and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, this is gross. And then I saw Erica while visiting family in Arizona at Mass front row pew was reserved. And to this point, I had kept my mouth pretty much shut. And it was the exact same performance that you see on TV, the dabbing of the eyebrows, showing up eyebrows, the tears, and the eyebrows maybe. Yeah, just more of the show. Jack Posobiec was there with his wife. They were talking through the consecration of the Eucharist, which if you're Catholic, that's like, you just don't do that. And it was I just couldn't be quiet anymore. And that was when I made my first video about it. I had 90 followers at the time. And it took a while, actually. Like at first, had no views, but the video just took off. And I really believe it's because people resonated with what I was saying, because in their intuitions and their guts, which I don't even think it takes that perceptive an intuition to sense that something is off. Millions of us are sensing that something is off. And so it's only been, and we'll go into this, I'm sure, but it's only been a further unfolding of so many realizations and questions and sketchy occurrences since then, particularly regarding TPUSA and Erica Kirk, but really, for me, most of the conservative orgs and their figureheads.
Yeah. This is just a conversation between you and I, so we can take this wherever we want to go. And I'm going to just tell you right now, the thing that has bothered me the most in all of this, and I can't speak for Catholicism, you can, but I can't, is seeing, and I know why they're doing it, seeing TPUSA, which has a foundation because of Charlie in evangelical Christianity, evangelical conservatism, and the bridge, obviously from the church and Christian and faith life over to the political life. And ultimately, I'd say that's a good thing. Christians, whether Catholic or non-Catholic, should have a place. And really, if we believe that we're right about the way, the truth, and the light, Jesus Christ, we should not light, but life, way, the truth, and the life. We should be leading organizations. We should be heavily involved in government. Good. More power to you. But this blind spot has been created within evangelical conservatism, specifically about the foreign nation of Israel and the Jews as a people, because we are told to not question them, to love them, to venerate them. And now they're going so far, some of the biggest evangelical people, especially people involved with Trump, are getting very close to saying Jews don't really need Jesus Christ. They have their own covenant, and we don't really need to bother them with something like salvation or something like the atoning work of the cross or Christ's resurrection. They don't need that, because eventually they will turn to Christ when they need to at the end of all time. So it really, if you believe we should be sharing in the Great Commission, and you believe also that the first Christians were Jews, as they were, it's a really weird place to be. And I see the average Christian like you and me talking about this, but the average evangelical pastor just basically showing pictures of Nazi Germany and saying, look what's coming. You're questioning the Jews. Like it's like the Fourth Reich is coming. I know where all that's coming from, and I know why they're not answering the question. So I want to, first of all, commend you for your outspoken voice. I could talk all day about how evangelical conservatives, the leaders, not so much the people in the seats, but the leaders won't speak about, on the last show I called it the Holy Trinity right now of gatekeeping. They won't question Charlie's death. They won't question Israel, and they won't question Epstein. And strangely, I think those three things are highly related. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's me talking from an evangelical Christian perspective that has a Protestant tradition. I respect many things about the Catholic Church. Okay. I do. So I'm not trying to get into our divide today on why that would be. What I want to hear from you, though, Bridget, is what have you seen in the Catholic world that either aligns with what I'm talking about or doesn't? Because my other friend, Carrie Prejean Bowler, who's coming on tomorrow, she's battling in the same thing about, are the Catholics really on her side? Because but maybe the outspoken Catholics are not really with her. I don't know. So I'll let you have the floor.
Yeah, no, you made some really great points. First, I just want to hit on something, somewhat of a tangent, but a short one.
Go.
These same people, the Rothschilds, who had a lot to do with the Holocaust and funding Hitler, clearly have a very vested interest in the success of the Israeli state. I wouldn't say Jewish people, but of the Israeli state succeeding in all of its endeavors. And the Holocaust is often used by evangelicals, Christians, Catholics, you name it, people in defense of Israel as the cure-all for any critique of Israel is to throw the Holocaust at us and to say it's anti-Semitic. They've been through a lot. I mean, for my whole life, you equated Israel with the Jewish people and their suffering and the Bible and the Holocaust.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, there's a place for all of that, of course. But when that is when that is the shield that the Israeli government and the atrocities it's committing, and the American government and the atrocities it's committing in Israel and through and with Israel, we have a problem. And it lends the question, the Rothschilds, helping Hitler, which we know this is not like a theory anymore. It begs the question, maybe part of this was to create a catastrophic historical event that they could always fall back on to attack anyone who dares question the Israeli government of anti-Semitism, because look, remember the Holocaust. And I mean, that it worked for me until about 5 months ago, honestly. And that's just the truth. So I want to say that because I think that is where most Christians, Catholic or Protestant, kind of come from. We come from an understanding that the Holocaust was catastrophic, which of course it was, that Israel is, the flock. We don't really think, I wasn't raised to believe that the Israeli government was anything beyond whoever was in charge of the remnant, the remnant Jews. So I think a lot of it comes down to ignorance primarily at the lower levels. At the higher levels, with these organization leaders, these pastors, these priests and bishops, it is outright cowardice. And you almost can't blame them. And I don't really mean that. You absolutely can, because they are to be held responsible for the ways in which they lead people who look to them. But you can see why people don't want to touch on this, because it is, the Epstein files that we've seen, which are obviously redacted, they are a fraction of what exists, not only in the files, but in what we know occurred.
Speaking of, Bridget, who did Epstein, you may not know this, he said, I represent who in one of his emails? The Rothschilds.
See that one?
Wow. He said, as you know, I represent the Rothschilds. Now, he would say he represented a lot of people, but it's really interesting that he, laid claim to that he did know them. He knew several of the family members. And to add a little bit of history to what you're talking about, there was a deal struck between not only the Rothschilds, but elite Jewry of the time that wanted, they were using anti-Semitism as a tool to get these Jewish people, the poor Jewish people specifically, into Israel. Hitler wanted them out for a different set of reasons. So what did they create together? A coin that was known as a passage coin to get Jews into Israel. One side had the swastika, the other side had that little star that we all love so much. So what you are saying is something we were not taught, but it is historical fact.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. So I think you have the masses uneducated, raised to basically believe the propaganda they wanted us to believe, which is that the Israeli state can do no wrong. They are the Jewish people. You don't mess with the Jews. And then at the higher levels and I would say there's a lot of ignorance among pastors and priests, but at this point, ignorance is willful, in my opinion, because there is an abundance of evidence, an abundance of proof that what is going on right now in Gaza is diabolical, and it's primarily caused by the Israeli government and our funding of the Israeli government. Obviously, the Epstein files, there is no pleading ignorance, in my opinion, to the issues at hand. And a lot of leaders, a lot of priests, bishops, are pulling that card, and it's at this point laughable because that's willful. The cowardice is, in my opinion, somewhat understandable given what we're up against. I have no following. I'm a nobody. And there is a hesitancy to go all in on this because we are going up against diabolical evils. This is not small stuff. So I think there's just profound cowardice. And among churches that obviously get funding from outside and certainly from their people, among nonprofits and organizations, companies like the Daily Wire, there is financial reason not to speak into these issues. Substantial financial reason. And that's why I've been calling them out, because it's gross and it's hypocritical, completely hypocritical to the missions of some of these organizations. Certainly churches, any Christian organization, church, that is remaining silent on any of this. And I've thought this for a long time about abortion. Like, any church that's still silent on abortion is completely missing the mark, because again, the evidence is abundant in terms of what the abortion industry is doing, what abortion does to a preborn child. So that's where we're at. I mean, I feel like I could go on like a million.
Well, let's hit on that for a minute. Let's hit on that, because both the evangelical church has a very strong tradition of fighting for pro-life causes and against abortion. So does the Catholic Church. Okay, so we could very much agree on that. Yet, I have seen that evangelicals, again, I'm going to harp on the leadership, because the pews right now, the people in the butts in the seats are mixed. Half of them watch people like us and they're like, man, I wish my pastor would just like talk to one of these people. Well, they're the leadership, at least in the evangelical side, they don't want to talk to me because I'm bringing stuff in front of their face that they don't want to have to talk about. They want to make this about anti-Semitism, or they want to make it about the oldest hatred. They've called people like me that all of a sudden I have a demonic spirit, and that's flat wrong. I have not changed. My values have stayed the same. What I have seen, though, is that on the Protestant side, yes, there's monetary benefit for loving and supporting Israel and having those relationships, because they'll fly you over, you kiss the wall, you get taught what you need to say about Israel to your congregations, and there is money changing hands. But more often than not, there's access to prime ministers that can now write a blurb for your book, which is a huge deal. And now you've got a 30-year ministry where you've written books and platformed all these IDF people, and had gotten an interview with Benjamin Netanyahu even as a pastor. You've gotten all these things. So to now actually it's put right in your face that somebody like Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf of an asset of Israeli intelligence, doesn't have to be Mossad, or that, Charlie Kirk was speaking really against some things that he was saying things you can't say about Israel in his circles, and then he dies.
Right.
They're not wanting to talk about that. And it's getting clearer and clearer, the kind of shell that they've created, where all conversation has to be gatekept and managed, and you can't allow certain voices on your platform. And instead, you just have to label them a name and just hope that your congregation does not follow them. So what about on your side? I know that there's the Pope, there's the Vatican, there's cardinals, there's priests, and then there's people under that who are doing a lot of good in this world, like Lila Rose. I've got all kind of respect for the work she's done with Live Action, but you have told me some other things that were enlightening. So tell me about things the way you see it on the Catholic side specifically.
Yeah. So, I mean, to be honest, I should have done a little bit more into the top. I mean, I know the new Pope Leo is very outspoken about human rights, which I appreciate about him, but in a way that's, I think, less confusing and more doctrinally sound than Pope Francis. So I think that's a breath of fresh air just in general for the world. My focus has primarily been on people I know, just because it's more personal. I think that's part of what the awakening has been for me is I know these people. I know their arguments. I know their positions on the faith, on human life, on dignity. And so just to see the silence from the likes of Michael Knowles or Matt Walsh or Lila Rose, these traditional Catholics who have hung their hat on this being, oh my gosh, I thought that was my computer. And I was like, it's listening.
No, I pulled up the Live Action website just to kind of see what they have right there on the front.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they do a lot right, and she is who she is, and has the platform she does for a reason. And there's a reason I wanted to work there. They're the top pro-life organization in the world in terms of reach and strategy, truly. Like they have probably brought thousands of people to the pro-life cause. I don't even know how many babies they've saved. What I want to say is when your argument for fighting the culture of death, when your argument against abortion is fundamentally, at the end of the day, summed up as it is wrong to kill innocent people, and they have no problem calling out abortion companies, which they should. They have no problem calling it out when it is abortion or when it is the killing of people because of leftist policies like euthanasia or all the frozen embryos because of IVF. I mean, they speak into these issues all the time. Same with Ali Stuckey. But you are going to be deafeningly silent when we know thousands of people in Israel, or in Gaza rather, have been killed by the Israeli government and by our government indirectly. And at least 20,000 babies and children. And you can look it up. You can see pictures of beheaded infants. And you're silent. And a step further, we have called, and I believe Live Action kind of spearheaded this, we have called abortion the genocide of our times, which is true because thousands of babies are killed every single day via abortion. But then you have another genocide of babies and children being killed. And because it's by the Jewish people, which is a crazy way of putting it, there's silence. Now, another thing on these same people and others, the Epstein files were nothing about the Epstein files until it started to become what's trending. And at first it wasn't trending on social media. At first what was trending was Bad Bunny, which is ridiculous when the Epstein files had just dropped. And Lila said, one of her tweets said, "You're upset about the Epstein files, but you're not upset about Bad Bunny. Like, don't you see that people like Bad Bunny create an environment where the Epstein files happens?" First of all, that's a stretch. That's freaking crazy to say that. Secondarily, you're upset about Bad Bunny, but not the Epstein files. Like, what kind of an argument is that? And there's so much of that. I mean, Matt Walsh posted the other day about how curling isn't a sport. And it's a whole video of him ripping on Olympic curling, which I happen to agree with him. It doesn't matter. You have been absolutely, deafeningly silent on issues that matter to the utmost. And we're supposed to take you seriously as a leading Catholic, as a leading conservative thinker, as a leading person who advocates for the prosperity of the free world. It's a joke.
100%. I'm right now, I'm pulling up, as you were talking, I was listening. I'm just pulling up your Instagram page because real quick, I want everybody to this is Bubba.Bosco. That's where you can go and find your commentary on a lot of these issues that you're talking about right now. So I do encourage everybody that's watching this or going to watch this, follow Bridget. She does a fantastic job of breaking down big issues into really understandable, just short-term videos, short form videos. And a lot of this stuff is just you sitting in your car making, commentary, which is, it's the best way to do it. It's organic and natural. You may have already said this, Bridget, but remind me again, what was when you first made a video, you're like, okay, I'm going to make some waves here. What was the thing that made you do that?
It was seeing Erica at church. And
no, okay. Well, before you go on, you saw Erica and you saw Jack Posobiec, and what church do you go to? This must be like a major Catholic.
Arizona. Yeah, I was visiting. It's called St. Bernadette in Scottsdale. I'm going to put it on blast because I want to put that priest on blast. You do not reserve a front row pew. You don't create a circus at Mass. And the priest, yeah, I got to be careful how I put this, but it is a very questionable decision for the pastor of that parish to do what he's been doing with Erica. And I don't know if he's taken a step back. I know that he was at an event with her across the country and he had to hide from the camera because he had promised his parishioners that he wasn't going to get too involved in this whole circus. So I have questions for that priest. Certainly for the decision to create the front row pew for her, literally to reserve it. You can't sit there. They will tell you, even if she's late, which she is, you have to get up. It's saved for her and her entourage. People have said, oh, well, it's for security reasons. You don't sit in the front row pew if you're trying to be discreet and knowing the church, there are much better places that you can sit. One thing that you mentioned is, these people coming at you calling it, you've got a spirit of a dementor or a demon or whatever. Mm-hmm. I've heard it all too. I mean, there was literally a tweet that went viral. I don't even know the girl's name, some conservative bootlicker who posted about how after my video about Erica Kirk went viral, it was about how I am troubled and an addict. And, at first my posts were about miscarriage and now I've moved on to Erica. I'm like, that is 101 gaslighting. They're going to go right for your knees. They're going to go for the state of your sanity, the state of your soul.
Yep.
And it's cult 101. I mean, that is cult groupthink 101, is especially in a Christian world, is to make the person, to ostracize them morally so that everyone else is that much more hesitant to step out of line because they don't want to be damned. They don't want the spirit of a demon in them. And reputation does matter in these circles. And so they're afraid to do what you've done or what I've done because they don't want, I mean, it has not been a pretty ride. The backlash, I would say, of this whole journey, and not just politically. Like, my family has broken out in a lot of ways of the town that we went to college in, which was also a cult. And we have been ostracized for that decision. Literally had someone comment on my recent post about my grandfather, and it said, "Looks like karma's been coming for you." And it was a post about my grandfather's death. And it's like, these people genuinely believe that they are on God's side. And it's wild.
Yeah.
You can call someone, say they have the spirit of a demon, and think that you're the one cooperating in biblical truth. It's astounding.
The gaslighting is incredible. And like I said before, what I have seen, the people that are trying to protect the narrative, and this goes for the TPUSA and Erica Kirk, like, we can't question them because, it's a grieving widow and all that. They're squeezing so tightly. And there's a famous line in Star Wars, of all things, where Princess, are you familiar with Star Wars, the movies, like Princess Leia and all that? Mm-hmm. Okay. So she's talking to this, one of the higher ups or whatever within the, it's not the rebellion. What are they called? Not the Federation.
Resistance?
No, not the Resistance. The bad guys. I should know this if I'm going to bring it up. The Imperial.
The dark side. The Imperial.
What are they called? Anyway, you know what I'm talking. Yeah, the people the stormtroopers work for, that Darth Vader, they're the institutions, right? Well, and it's kind of like the institutions today. They're protecting their narrative so badly. And Princess Leia says to General Tarkin, I remember his name, she says, the tighter you try to grip this thing that you're trying to do, the more star systems are gonna slip through your fingers. And it's almost like sand. They know their narrative is crumbling, and they know that people are seeing through it. So they're gripping tighter and tighter and tighter. And you can see that with Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. They're gripping so tight on this Epstein thing. And they're making these massive mistakes, like saying, did you know the Dow is over 500? And it's like, you just made it 10,000 times worse for yourself. Right. Like, you just created like the ultimate meme for truthers for the next 5 years. Literally. It's
so they can't help themselves. It's so bad. And I think that started with, I have felt this for a while. The human mind, human reason has been so grossly underestimated because, yes, it has been used for horrific things. We see that. We see awful strategies at play right now that are reason evilly applied. That's why I said free will is so fascinating to me, because people will really use and abuse it. And that's the mystery of it, right? Because God didn't want slaves. God didn't want cogs in a machine. He wanted relationship. And in order for us to have the ability to truly love him, we had to have the freedom to not. Mm-hmm. And so that's what's at play right now. And I think these evil people who are implementing horrific strategies and abuses of the free will are always underestimating human resilience, human good. The fact that the day Charlie died, people would put their heads together and talk about it and post their videos and, have the cojones to say that is not true or that's not right. And so, like you said, now they're scrambling. And instead of, the best thing they could have done for Erica Kirk and her believability was to keep her out of the effing spotlight. And instead, this woman publicly forgives her husband's murderer within 12 seconds and then goes on live TV with this indignation and righteous anger at anyone questioning the narrative. Which is it? Are you a docile, demure, holier than thou widow? Or are you angry at people who don't believe what we're being told, which, by the way, a child could see doesn't make sense?
Yeah.
So there's so much of that happening right now. And it's almost funny. Every time Fox News posts on Instagram, I'm like, you guys actually hate Eric Kirk and Trump, because this is the worst PR attempt I have ever seen in my entire life. It's a joke.
Yeah. Well, let's dig in for a minute. One of the things that you decided to do, and I know that you waited on it, and I've waited on any criticism of Erica. As weird, as much as my spirit told me something was wrong, actually, in the first week or two, I don't care. It was too soon, and I would get angry with people that were attacking her or calling her a liar, or, there was a whole plethora of people that I was mad at early on. And I still think that was too soon. But you get a few months out and it's like, okay, this keeps going. It keeps getting worse. You have done a little bit of a deep dive on, and I want you to point to whichever Instagram reel it is where you kind of spoke about it. But there's a company, which one of these reels that I'm going through right now?
Oh gosh, I put weird thumbnails on it, so I'm not sure if I'm able to tell. So are you talking about her?
Yeah, the one where no. The one where she's involved with this company that's mentioned in the Epstein files, and the lady that is
Pinocchio nose.
This one.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, you won't be able to hear it on here, but kind of describe the rabbit hole that you went down and the things you found here.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm hoping someone with better research skills than I have is watching your show right now, because the Corcoran Group is a real estate company. It was founded by Barbara Corcoran of the Shark Tank. She sold it in 2001, and it has since been bought and sold quite a few times. But the CEO of the Corcoran Group, it's a luxury real estate company in New York City, has been since 2000 Pamela Leibman. A rich New York Jew. She's got some weird connections. She and her husband have some weird Iranian-Israeli connections. She has some connections to the Rothschilds in the Epstein files, and I was not the one who discovered this. I forget the girl's name, but it shows that Lynn Rothschild is the president of the Corcoran Group, which makes zilch not a sense, because it's been Pam since 2000. So you have this weird crossover, this inconsistency. We know Lynn is who introduced Alan, I can't say his last name.
Dershowitz.
Dershowitz?
Dersh, just like Dershowitz.
I was getting critiqued in my comments for saying his name wrong. And Prince Andrew. She introduced Jeffrey to both those guys. She's in Epstein's Little Black Book. Obviously, the Rothschilds and Epstein go way back. So this woman, who is deeply, deeply embedded in the Epstein files, is listed as the president of the Corcoran Group. Okay. In addition to Pam Leibman, the actual CEO and president, having some very weird ties, she is who sent Jeffrey, someone who then sent it to Jeffrey, the NDA for his house in New York City, the infamous house.
Wait.
So,
Wait. The NDA, the non-disclosure agreement?
There was a non-disclosure agreement in 2011. He had gotten out of jail. We already knew he was a pedophile. He was convicted of solicitation of prostitution with a minor. He gets out of jail in 2010. 2011, he's trying to lock in all his assets, and that's when the trust of the big old mansion in New York City went from whomever he had bought it from to Epstein. And at that time is when Pam Leibman of the Corcoran Group sent an NDA for the property to a redacted name, and then the redacted name sent the NDA to Jeffrey.
Okay.
So that's a pretty intimate connection, in my opinion. You're sending an NDA to a known pedophile, a convicted pedophile, who we all knew got out easy on those 2008 charges. Fast forward to so that was in 2011, the NDA. 2018 is when Erica Kirk indicates that she began working for the Corcoran Group. This is the same summer she was in grad school at Liberty University. It's the same summer she went on the dating show. It's when she met Charlie Kirk and applied at TPUSA. So literally begins working for the Corcoran Group a month after meeting Charlie and having her interview first date with Charlie. That's crazy. That's freaking crazy.
All right, high level question here. Okay. If you had to stake your life on Yes or no? You only get one. Was Erica part of an elaborate scheme to create a Truman Show style world where Charlie was controlled to, think he's doing, at least with the people around him in his close circle? Was it fake, and was Erica a part of this scheme, or is she just, kind of a strange person who grieves weird? I mean, which is it in your mind? Is she part of a plant or not?
1,000%. The former. And it's going to come out. I mean, I don't think there will ever be justice, just like we're not going to see any of these monsters in the files see what they ought to see in terms of justice. But we're so close. Like, so much has come out. Too much has come out on this woman at this point for me to believe anything else. And that was even prior to the Epstein file drop. I already believed that Charlie's life had been a lie and that this marriage had been a lie.
But not to him. I don't think.
Right. No. Oh gosh, no. I mean, and I think there's reason to believe, and Candace touches on this, that he might have been starting to wake up. Because here's this guy. He's a huge nerd. He's just a huge, big, brave nerd, right? He cares about America. He is brilliant. You listen to the way he speaks, love him or hate him, the guy is brilliant.
Yes.
And he meets Miss Arizona, which, by the way, that's sketchy. The way Tyler Boyer set that up. He's the COO at TPUSA. He sets Erica and Charlie up. He had Tyler met Erica in 2015. So 3 years prior at a Trump campaign event in Arizona. Both Tyler and Erica are from Arizona. It's Tyler who convinced Charlie to move TPUSA from Illinois, where he's from, to Arizona. So that's all. To me, that whole thing is sketch. Tyler has also come out and ripped anybody who dares question what the FBI is saying. And by the way, it's the same FBI telling us that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie. That same FBI telling us that Charlie was killed by Tyler Robinson is the FBI that, with a straight face, is telling us that there is not enough evidence in the Epstein files to confirm that Jeffrey Epstein ever trafficked a child. So we're supposed to take these people. It's like, what? It's insane.
That leads back to that, what I call the Holy Trinity right now of gatekeeping. It's the same people, whether you're Allie Stuckey or Lila Rose, and I'm just using them as figureheads because they represent, both sides of the Christian movement in the United States and in politics. You can't question, or you're not supposed to talk about the Epstein thing unless it isn't related in any way to Israel or the Jewish people, which is very difficult to do, so they mostly ignore it. That's one. Two, everything you're saying right now would get you fired or ousted from either one of those organizations, even if Turning Point or Erica had nothing to do with your organization. Yep. And then three, Zionism in the state of Israel at large. The same questions Charlie was asking about October 7th. Was there a stand-down order? He is the only really high level conservative Christian, not to mention conservative Christian, involved in geopolitics because he knew what he was talking about. I think he was learning. He's the only one, at his level at least, that's been willing to say that out loud. And he did it on the Patrick Bet David show. And then he did it multiple times with Megyn Kelly. And then he started alluding to it at his own events, a big event.
Which they did not want. They did not want this guy evangelizing the next generation of leaders. They did not want him on the higher ed scene whatsoever. They loved it when he was pro-Israel, because where better to have a guy who's, promulgating all this propaganda. The second his tune started to change, and he hadn't even come down that hard yet, he had just started to ask questions. Yep. They were like, holy shit, we can't have this guy going campus to campus, sharing his posts, doing what he's done all along.
He came down hard one time, finally. Well, the time he talked about Jewish donors on that little tirade he went on his own show, that you can't say that, okay? And then when he finally wrote in that text message within 48 hours of his death that this leaves me no choice but to leave the Israel cause entirely. I've never heard one conservative Christian honestly put that out there on their page and say, we've got to deal with this. Where was Charlie going? That whether you're Eric Metaxas or Allie Stuckey or any one of them, they stay a mile away from that. And matter of fact, yesterday, or it was maybe 2 days ago. Do you know Steve Deace? He's a major voice with Blaze TV, Glenn Beck. So same camp. He's kind of a small, nerdy looking guy, but he's really sharp. And he does great commentary on everything except for geopolitics in Israel, because he has to love them. He has to almost worship them. Well, guess who he did an interview with yesterday about looking into the Epstein files? Josh Hammer, who was one of the big, Zionists that was on the text thread with Charlie when Charlie wrote that. And it's one of those guys you said, you've never heard of Josh Hammer?
Okay. I should know all these names, but they're just boring to me.
Well, he's a big player in all this. He would be the actual Jewish version of what Tyler Bowyer is with TPUSA. So he would represent I don't care whether you're right or left, as long as you support Israel. Therefore, I'm going to invest in Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to invest in TPUSA. Okay.
Yeah.
So you probably know when Dave Smith on the Turning Point stage did, and Charlie managed the debate or hosted the debate between Dave Smith and Josh Hammer.
Yes. Yes.
You just didn't know it was Josh Hammer. So imagine you are Steve Deace with Blaze TV, a big network that's going to get to the bottom of the Epstein thing and all this stuff. And your guest to discuss this is Josh Hammer. Like, tell us you're not interested in the real truth without telling us.
Literally.
Bring that guy on. One other thing I'll mention, when you say Tyler Bowyer, I didn't know him well, but when I became a big enough donor with Turning Point for them to invite me to go out to Arizona, I met with Tyler. We spoke for about an hour after Charlie gave one of his events. Now, this is back in early 2022, or maybe even late 20. No, it's early 2022. The last person I'm suspecting of any foul play or weirdness is a guy like Tyler Bowyer. And who knows, maybe back then it was different. I don't know. But now looking back, you start connecting dots. Tyler Bowyer is the one that is pictured with Benjamin Netanyahu's son, and then Erica Franzwe, now Erica Kirk, in this photo that's becoming more and more famous.
Yeah.
But that's Tyler Bowyer at the center of that. Tyler Bowyer is the one that I sent a message to on X. He never responded. This was a week afterwards, and I saw the heat that Turning Point was taking and all these big questions, and people that were saying what we're saying now, but they were just asking the questions. And he's trying to manage conversations, and he and I remember, who's the guy now, Andrew Colvett. Andrew Colvett and him are doing these videos together, and they're talking about how people are already questioning Erica Kirk. And I remember Colvett, and I'm still wanting to trust them. And Colvett's like, it gets brought up, and Colvett says, "This is the worst, most evil thing I've ever seen. You've got these people." And my heart at this point, a week after, maybe it's 10 days after, I'm still so badly wanting to trust them that
it would be evil if it were true. It would. Yeah. This were really. Yeah.
So and I'm long-winded, but I'll get to the point. I finally sent a message on X to Tyler Bowyer, and I said, "Listen, man, first of all, I'm so sorry about everything that happened with the whole TPUSA family, Charlie at the head. Oh, so sorry. However, if you guys are really wanting to combat these questions, and you're trying to manage the conversation around Turning Point, which I care about as a donor, like, you've got to look more curious, because with what the FBI just put out and what Colvett just put out about the Man of Steel neck, like, you guys not even asking questions, and you're calling it like a miracle that Charlie's neck stopped the bullet so it didn't kill anybody behind him. You're making the masses of atheists and agnostics and people who aren't Christian and don't care. They're laughing at you guys for believing.
They don't care about those people. They care about the Christians that they have pinned down already, who will dare question. You're going to question that it was a miracle, Jeremy? You're going to question that God could work that wonder?
Yeah.
Wow, you must have the spirit of a demon. It's so manipulative.
Yes. Well, I didn't put this together, and then I'll shut up, Bridget. But like a day after I wrote that, I heard on Instagram a guy that I've interviewed twice, who I know does deep dives and has a thinking mind. He's now the director of Turning Point Faith, and his message was, "This has got to stop." And we got into a conversation. I said, "How about we address this respectfully as men? And let's have a phone call." And we had an hour-long phone call. And I looking back, I'm like, that was the day after I messaged Bowyer. They were in hyper containment mode and, reaching out to anybody they knew who might know somebody that can stop this person from asking questions. And out of respect, I did stop on the TPUSA questions, but I went even harder on the Kash Patel questions because to me it's like that's the FBI and all this. But I mean, I could go into what we talked about on that phone call, but it was basically, trust me, bro, I know these people, I know all the teams, everybody's above board. The truth will come out, but the truth is what we're being told. It's that, it's just like you're hurting us if you're continuing to press on these issues. And I just said, well, if the story continues to go like it's going and all of a sudden TPUSA gets away from asking questions and you become this uber Zionist organization that just like almost worships Israel. And I said all this. I said, it's going to get really bad for you guys. And, he didn't really have anything to say to that. And
Tried to warn him.
Yeah. I still.
Crazy is that even if it were just for self-preservation reasons, even if it had nothing to do with the truth and actually being people of integrity, this organization, Erica, all these people who have made it very clear where their allegiance lies, would be doing a better job of saving face and of at least pretending to be curious. Like they didn't even have to. Why did TPUSA ever have to agree with the FBI? They could have agreed behind closed doors where it mattered, and outwardly to save face had it like, hey, we're going to have to make it look like the wife is questioning. At least Erica, like forget TPUSA. Why wouldn't the wife, at least for the sake of containing the narrative, come out and be like, this is a mess. My husband, the cause my husband died for, I believe, it was Carly's own words that have made us all go, this is really freaking off. And evidence
Go ahead.
No, just that like we're being gaslit. Our senses are being gaslit.
Yeah.
And it's been a horrible strategy. Like you said, it's just made it more and more so that any of us who had any benefit of the doubt left are like, sorry, no, I can't gaslight myself out of what I'm seeing with my own eyes.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the Christian community, unfortunately for TPUSA, this is coming on the heels of Trump and Kash and Dan Bongino all completely going back on their word about Epstein until they were forced to release some things. And prior to that, we saw what they were able to do with COVID. And I think the strategy here is we have the biggest microphones and the most money, even if there's millions of people questioning us and we look foolish, as long as we don't get off script and we continue to bang the drum and ignore it as much as possible, ultimately the loudest microphone will win. So just as, even if the Christian community was maybe some of the first to turn against the narrative on COVID and on masking, 3 masks and vaccines, still 70% of the United States took the vax and then took boosters. I think that's the play here is let's just continue our marching orders until people have gotten, what is it called? Epstein fatigue or Erica fatigue. And they just kind of let it go. And we've been infused now with $250 million extra dollars as an organization. So then we'll just march on and it'll be just a blip on the radar.
Well, they're going to start suing people. Like they're going to start making it even scarier for the bulldogs to say anything. We're not the majority. Like the majority of Christians are so, and this is why I think Trump went for the evangelical vote. If you want to convince a huge mass of the United States population into anything and have it be for righteous reasons, you pick the crowd that has literally been programmed, many of us, by our churches. And I don't mean at the high levels like doctrine and the Bible. I mean the people that run our churches, Catholic, Protestant, everything in between. You have picked the perfect conglomerate of people. One, because we were so sick of the left and we had hope that Trump meant what he was saying. And two, because we know what we've been victims of religious manipulation and abuse our whole lives, many of us. So you've picked the group of people that are so easy to manipulate spiritually, and you've done what you've done. And they're right, because guess what? We're all talking about the Epstein files, even the left, right? No one's talking about ICE anymore. No one's talking about Alex Pretty. Like, we've all moved on, and that's their hope. Their hope is to keep doing this kind of shit where we're like, on to the next crisis. And what are we going to do about it? Minus a revolution or everybody not paying their taxes, which I know that if we all said we were going to, it would be like the vaccine. Only 30% of us at most would actually not file, and we'd all be thrown in jail and made a laughing stock of. Like, what are we going to do?
Hold on. Your point is well made, but 30% is a high number. Imagine if that's 110 million people. If 110 million people, including those in the upper tax brackets, say 30% of those stopped as well, that's truly a 30% loss. You can't actually arrest and put in jail 110 million people.
Do you think that many would do it? I don't think that. I don't even.
Well, you said 30%.
No, I did. I said even if the same amount who didn't get the vaccine chose not to pay taxes, but I would argue that maybe 10% of us would actually follow through on not paying our taxes. The majority who said, yeah, let's do it, would panic and would file.
Yeah, they would probably arrest the people that really didn't have that much to give anyway, that were easy targets as a warning. And then the people, yeah, me and you go to jail. No more podcasts. We got rid of that voice, right?
Oh my gosh. So sad.
Let's talk about the faith aspect of this real quick because, and I'll speak to something you just mentioned. While Biden was president, see, I was on the Reawaken America tour, which was very conspiratorial, very Christian. We didn't really talk about Israel much, even though that's kind of at the root of a lot of conspiracies. It was more about the conspiracy of the WHO and the CDC and the World Economic Forum, which are, hey, those are real things. And there was a lot of tweets brought out in that. Okay. But they did a really nice job, especially with Trump being this guy who was undefinable and seemed to be hated by, really, I mean, he was hated by the establishment on the right wing too. Marco Rubio didn't like him. Ted Cruz hated him. He was calling them names. And then he broke into the consciousness of people that were sick and tired of the system as this guy, this billionaire who was going to stand up for the old school American patriot again, right? And all the right people hated him. The mainstream media and BLM and the communists, they all hated him, right? So there's something to be said. There's something to be said about, okay, was he captured along the way? Was he paid off? Was he, barring that? Then what happened is, and also it was all the right way. I don't remember the left wing being interested in Epstein when it looked like it was part of a Clinton, Biden, Obama cover up, right? I remember it being flipped the other way, where it was right wing media, especially truther media, that wanted to get this stuff out there. Then the whole thing flips, and I think it's mostly now based around Israel, because it's like we have to get the people that aren't on board with this globalist, whatever you want to call it, scheme to be on board with it. Well, tie God's chosen people and tie the evangelical pastors, tie them up where they can't even speak against it, because then it's going to put them directly in conflict with their own theology. It's really kind of brilliant.
Yeah.
So what I've seen happen is, not with a lot, but with a few, and a few of them are influencers. They have been so disenchanted by their church or their pastor or whoever, they have either walked away from the faith entirely because they're like, I can't trust the people that taught me the Bible. I can't trust, so I don't even believe it. Or they've created some weird version of Christianity where the only voice that matters is the voice of Jesus in the Bible. All the other stuff is some Pharisaic Jewish hoax to try to get people to basically still worship Jews. I've seen quite a bit of this, actually. So they throw out the Old Testament. They throw out the writings of Paul and his letters because Paul was a Pharisee. So the question in all that is this: what has your faith journey been like? Because you've seen this all happen, and you're not leaving your faith. But what has this been like for you?
I'm going to try not to cry. I don't know why that one just hit me for some reason. Well, I'm going to back up for a minute. In 2018, the Pennsylvania sex report came out. So I'm a Roman Catholic, as you've mentioned. The Pennsylvania report was not done by the church. It was done by a private grand jury of the state.
What's it called again? I'm going to look it up.
It's the Pennsylvania, I'm calling it the Pennsylvania sex report. I'm sure it had more of a title, but it was a report on the abuses, the sexual abuses of Catholic priests throughout the diocese of, I think it was Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, but at least a chunk of Pennsylvania. And the content was horrible, like horrific. And to that point, it was the worst I'd ever read or heard about in my life across the board, let alone from my church. And it was at that point that I started to really question, is this the church I want to go to? And I would go to other churches, and I just kind of fell back to the Eucharist. I could not leave the sacrament of the Eucharist and felt like I had a real faith revival. Well, now, fast forward, there has been diabolical, frankly, mistreatment of my family and anyone who tries to break out of the world where I went to school, which is a very, very misogynistic, racist, tight-knit Catholic conservative.
Are you willing to say the name of it?
Yeah, so the school's called Christendom College. It's in Front Royal. I wouldn't say the school is a cult. I would say they certainly don't help. Like, a lot of the ways that is run as an institution foster these issues, but most of the mistreatment and the abuses that have occurred have been from alumni, and they just stay really close. They have these organized group chats and meetings and that kind of stuff, and they will organize in their opposition to, I mean, that's who commented on my post, somebody from there with a fake account because they're pussies and they don't have the cojones to use their real names. Like, they will come to my page all the time and just go absolutely apeshit on my posts because they hate women. they hate divorce. They hate anything that could possibly break from the mold. And it's really messed up. And I will say, I could go hours just on that one topic. That has made me question my faith more than anything else. And in all honesty, where I'm at right now is, and it's, I think, part of this awakening I've had in the past year, realizing, oh my gosh, truth exists. Jesus existed and he exists, and those things are all true. And I believe the sacraments are true, at least the Eucharist. I'm not sure about the rest right now. But these things have been absolutely weaponized and abused by people to manipulate and hurt and harm others. And so that's where I'm at. It's like, oh my gosh, more harm has been done. It's not just the problem of pain, right? The problem of pain has led so many people away from God because they cannot reconcile a good God with the suffering of the world.
Yeah.
Well, that is all compounded when the problem of pain, when the pain is perpetuated by people who are using God as their excuse. Now you have it. Now it's way worse. This isn't cancer. This is people who are abusing in God's name. And to your point, it is making people turn away. They are kind of understandably, in my opinion, saying, if that is who God is, I don't want anything to do with him. Which is where a ministry and evangelization is something I'm trying to do, which is a little tricky when I'm currently in the process of figuring this all out, is to say to people, listen, that's not God. And that's why I'm starting my podcast, is to expose the evils done in God's name and how they are not consistent with the biblical God, how these evils committed are not God, and then to give people the advice and the tips and the tools to break out of that without rejecting God outright. Because this is my great consolation, and I saw a post that said this today. None of the names in the files will be redacted on Judgment Day. Like, we have a God who sees all, and he is the God of the widow and the orphan and the badgered wife and the abused child and the illegal immigrant. And, like, he is the God who, now, that doesn't mean we shouldn't have law and order, which is the problem the left has. The left says there is no truth. Orthodoxy is a construct and it's confining, and they just throw it all out altogether. And that is the problem. That's a huge problem.
You're hitting on my sweet spot here. This is something that when you talk about Jesus became more real to you through this, his words, and then for you, the catechisms, right? And you said at least the Eucharist, but that same thing for me. The times where God has felt and my faith has come alive, where everything in the spiritual realm seemed to be emanating out of physical reality, the spiritual realm, was the week after Charlie died. For some reason, I just got very serious about my own death, about the forces at work beyond, this world. And this is without the conspiracy. This is just, we know there's good, we know there's evil.
Right.
Then the Epstein file release, and many people have said, wow, these are people that are agnostic. If Jeffrey Epstein himself, this guy, for some reason, like, okay, there are no rules, there's no real good and evil, but yet he's evil, so,
right, yeah.
It's like that because there's something in them.
Only truth exists.
Yeah. And that's the age-old problem for the atheist or the agnostic is in a world without any rules or any transcendent love or hate or good or evil. Why do we feel these things deep in us? Why do even little children who have not yet been taught all the rules, something in them pulls back? Well, there's many that have said, why did he name his bank account Baal? Like Baal from the Old Testament, the god that he sacrificed children to. And why were they engaging in activities that sound like the worst of the worst from the Old Testament when God said, go wipe them out because of the detestable practices that they are involved with generation after generation. And so there's some hope in that for me. But then I look at who is Jesus battling with the most? Most. It wasn't Rome, really. I don't think Rome was a friend to him. I think they were like a neutral, like, we're interested in that guy. He's doing miracles. Bring him before us, And like, why do you Pharisees hate him so much? He was, they had all these gods so that would allow them, the Romans, to kind of do as they please. If they didn't like this God, they go toward that God. To me, they're the left, in a sense. All right?
Yep.
Ruling with an iron fist, but they're a version of the secular state, right?
Sure.
Then you had the old school right wing, and they had their rules, and they had their laws, and they had great pride in their traditions of men, the traditions of men. Jesus fought with them all the time. So on the one hand, he's got the evil state, which was sort of trying to be like a neutral in the whole thing. Then you got the Pharisees that want him dead. They're plotting to kill him. They're lying about him. And Jesus said, if you don't know the Father, it doesn't matter who your ancestors were. If you knew who Abraham did, if you knew who Moses did, you would believe like they did because they spoke of me. He says that. They spoke about me. I was just reading one of the prophets last night, Isaiah. It's talking about Jesus over and over. It's saying it will be born in the city of David. For unto us is born this child. And he's talking about the great physician. He'll be called the Wonderful Counselor, Almighty God. All these things we now say about Jesus, it is prophesying. And yet they rejected him and rejected him and rejected him. And oh, by the way, Jeffrey Epstein and Leon Black and Benjamin Netanyahu, they reject him to this day. But will they use useful Christians that kiss their wall and almost venerate them to the point of Lord? And we at least on the evangelical side, it is veneration to the point of actual worship of a people that reject Jesus. I don't, get into the Mary stuff that much when it comes to Catholicism. However, I can understand that's the mother of the Lord. Jesus, had great respect for his own mother, and she had great respect for her son, and she knew that he was Lord. I mean, how strange would that be in a sense? Like, this is my son. He came from my body, but he's also the savior of the world. It's an amazing thing.
Right. These
Jewish elites are saying the opposite about this man. And yet we've got a guy like Mike Huckabee going over there and, saying, you don't need us as Christians, but we need you because you're the foundation of our faith.
Wild. That is wild. But, Jesus was a Jew. It's like, you do realize who insisted he be put to death. It wasn't Pilate. Like, and what's crazy, I remember I told you this on the phone call. Sorry, the sun is coming in, so it's doing weird things. When I
close your blinds if you need to.
Well, they are closed. I'm not really sure.
Oh, all right.
God is like,
yeah, it's so truthful. The heavenly light.
Yeah, for prophets. Well, 2 points. One, when I was in high school, I went to a pretty liberal Catholic high school in Massachusetts, all girls Catholic high school. And there was a question on the test, one of our tests in my religion class, about who ultimately put Jesus to death. And I remember at the time I deliberately answered it wrong. And I knew I'd get it wrong because we had been taught the Jews are not to blame for this. And that was the lesson. And that's why the question was on the test.
This is Catholic or
yeah.
Wow.
Catholic high school. And I on purpose answered it wrong because I thought, okay, yeah, Pilate ultimately had the say and perform the execution, his soldiers, but none of these people wanted to do it. And
He didn't want
the
to.
reason no, and the Jews like most certainly did. And it's like their ancestors or their descendants exist. And I absolutely believe in familial blessings and familial curses, and that, I mean, they don't continue if you fight them, but if you don't, they do. And hasn't been that long since Jesus was here. And, I used to always think, I absolutely believe that there will be martyrs of this age. And I, in ways, see Charlie as a martyr because he died in pursuit of truth. I always thought it would be the left coming for us, Planned Parenthood or Hillary Clinton. And yeah, that's part of it. But I believe many of us will be taken out by Pharisaical Christians and Pharisaical Catholics who, they don't want us talking. They don't want us saying the truth. And I think a lot of it, because we live in an influencer world, is clout. I think the reason Lila reached out to me and told me to stand down when I was talking about Erica Kirk and how dare you disparage a grieving widow was because she doesn't want to be behind in anything that's being spoken to that will help her get a following, which is why once everybody started getting a following talking about this stuff, suddenly she's posting, we need arrests. And it's like, this is so rich. It's so predictable that once it has some benefit for them, they will speak into it, but only once they've determined it won't cost them.
That's right. And the people are seeing that. We need arrests too. Is it true? Yes. Is it a benign statement that provides who is going to arrest them, Lila?
Right.
Who is it? Because I thought that it was all the people you're telling us to support.
Yes.
Whether that's Trump or Kash Patel or before he quit, Dan Bongino or, Pam Bond, all of these people, and I don't know Lila's like generally speaking, I mean, I know the institutions she aligns herself with. I assume she was a supporter of Trump prior to him being elected.
I don't know about this. She's been outspoken in opposition because he's such a flake on the pro-life issues. And I believe sincerely now from where I sit that the whole Trump Christian conservative thing was a joke. I don't think he got bought out. I think he is strategically aligned with the conservative Christian platform from the go because he knew he could get it. He knew he could manipulate us. I don't believe he actually got shot in the ear anymore. I really feel that so much of this has been a game that I fell for. I did. I mean, I literally went out after he got shot and bought a bumper sticker for my truck. And now I'm like, holy shit. I don't think that was real. I think they just shot another random autistic kid who just happened to be in a Black Rock video 2 years ago. It's crazy.
Isn't that insane too? I mean, there's multiple things I could say about this, but it's always that lone shooter who has relatively no digital footprint that you can research. They've got some kind of tie to BlackRock or one of these, with Erica, it's her family's ties to Israeli defense and defense contracts. That's one thing. You've got I'm starting to lose it. There's another connection that could be made there between her.
Oh, she was in a CIA video.
That one, the CIA video.
In a CIA documentary with the director of the CIA in 2015.
Those things don't happen to the average entrepreneurial, spirited boss babe. It just doesn't happen.
No, they don't. And you know why? Because I am one. Not really. I'm too disorganized, and I've never been Miss America. So
you just need a good, secretary manager. You've got it. Keep going.
I just need to be recruited by a pedophile. No, just
yeah. Now you know what they're going to clip out of this whole interview. Go ahead.
No, that's actually a great clip. If you want to succeed as a woman in this country, get recruited as a pedophile. Do you want to inherit a $150 million organization? No.
That's a phenomenal idea for a little short form skit. Anyway.
We should do that sometime. That's great.
Yeah.
Maybe I will. I might do that.
Where were we?
I don't know. Well, here's the other thing about the Corcoran Group, and I don't know how much time we have, but the Corcoran Group also is in the files. Again, I did not find this, so I should be crediting where I did find this. I just don't remember. There's another girl who was brought over to the U.S. from Ukraine. Epstein paid her to help start her modeling career, blah, blah, blah. She began working. Well, apparently she was working with the Corcoran Group for a while since she came over, which was in I think 2019. A month before Charlie dies in August of 2025, she changes her LinkedIn. This girl, Ukrainian girl who Epstein helped model, changes her LinkedIn to indicate that she began working for the Corcoran Group in August of this past year.
Wow.
So what's going on with the Corcoran Group? Like, that's huge. That's absolutely huge. And that we're supposed to believe this woman, Erica, who clearly has never had a single sale, just started working for them on a whim while also in grad school, while also going on the dating show. We know this woman lies. That was another deep dive I did. I went down Cabot Phillips' Instagram posts, and beginning in December of 2015, which was only 2 months after her last public appearance with Tyler Massey, her other ex-boyfriend, she was commenting, flirting on Cabot's posts until February of 2018. In 2018, she goes on Summer House. That's the year she starts dating Charlie. So the only year where her own online footprint does not indicate that she has a significant other is 2013. And of the 5 years, she said that she never dated before Charlie.
What year was it that, when was it that she said that she stayed out of the dating scene entirely?
2013, she said, for the 5 years I was here in New York City, I did not date because I saw through my piece of shit roommate what a waste of time it was to drink and drink and drink. So she didn't drink and she didn't date. So from 2013 to 2018, she says she did not date. The only year of her own recording that she does not have a significant other in that time frame is 2013. The 4 other years she has a boyfriend.
Yeah, if it was any one of these things, you could say, well, she's a party animal or was, and she was, boy crazy or dating a lot. So what? Like, give her a break. Now she's involved.
Why lie, though?
Yeah. Well, I get it. But if that was all it was, and her grief over Charlie was believable, and she was like, listen, I may not agree with Candace Owens, but I appreciate what she's doing for her old friend, and I hope that she helps get closer or get the truth. There's any number of things that she could have said along the way that would have made her believable, even with mistakes. Because have I lied in my life? Yes. To protect a reputation for something I did in the past. Yes. But it's just the layer upon layer, and on top of that, Corcoran Group, CIA videos, on and on and on. Did you ever do, Bridget? I think you were creating like a timeline, if I'm remembering this correctly, of kind of who Erica is or where she came from. Did you ever kind of do that at least a high level?
No, I should have gone farther back. I mostly I was focused on her relationships and then this whole her resume. But if you go all the way back to 2012, which is when she got recruited by Trump, that's the beginning of it just getting weirder and weirder and weirder. She is in the CIA video in 2015. That's also when she meets Tyler Boyer of TPUSA at a Trump event. So that's also crazy to me. You get recruited by Miss Arizona, Trump's Miss America pageants, which, whatever. But how did he learn that you exist? And which is why in my most recent video, I don't know if you saw it, there are emails between Epstein and a redacted name where somebody gets their teeth fixed by Epstein, and whoever this person is talking about her apartment in New York City. These are in 2009, these emails. She's talking about how she has a Romanian friend, which is interesting because Erica spent a lot of time in Romania, and obviously there's that whole controversy with the orphanage where children were getting trafficked from. She talks to Epstein, whoever this redacted name is, talks to him about her apartment in New York City, modeling, her Romanian friends, and these are from 2009. Which I believe is before she technically moved to New York, but we don't know. Like, she was all over the map. She literally says that. If you go to her website where it describes her self-described personality as like a wandering heart, I moved to New York City on a whim after being in Michigan and Arizona and China. And it's like, this is crazy. You are either the weirdest, most socially awkward overachiever I have ever met in my life, with some crazy coincidences that do not make you look very good, And that's with us being like, da, 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 you know, like turning a complete blind eye to things that are just too much to be coincidence. Or you are directly involved. And I thought she was involved in Charlie's death before all this Epstein stuff came out. Now I'm of the mind to say, where did Jeffrey get all these kids that they were torturing? And, you know, they had to recruit to somehow end up with a bunch of children that they could eat. And I know that's a big thing to kind of imply, but
Yeah.
I stand by it. I really do.
Yeah. Well, you've got nothing to lose. And and when I say that, I just mean like the institutions aren't what's backing you right now. Before we move on, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move on to a portion of this interview that's only going to be, again, for my subscribers. So if you're watching this on YouTube, this is pre-recorded right now for you. I'm live on Substack. But go to jslayusa.com, sign up as a paid subscriber. You can watch the whole thing. I'm going to walk through what I've made as a list of all of the bullet points around Charlie Kirk's assassination that don't add up. And I want Bridget to add to that, to respond to it, to say, no, that one was resolved. So we're going to have some fun with that in a minute. But before we cut to that, Bridget, do you have a name for your upcoming podcast? Do you know what you're going to call it?
Yes, it's called Unflocked. UN, like flock as in flock of sheep. So Unflocked.
Okay. Do you have a website or anything for that yet?
No, there's a YouTube channel, Unflocked Show.
Okay.
And then if you go to my Instagram, bubba.bosco, in the bio is the Instagram handle for the show. The first episode comes out on the 27th of this month. First few episodes are going to be on YouTube, and then we're going to roll out Substack first episodes that eventually make it to YouTube. But I want to give people an idea of what they'll be getting before I make them pay.
Yeah. No. Great. Yeah. Very good strategy. Yeah. So do that. As soon as we're done, send me those links. All the links, guys, should be clickable in the description to help Bubba. I can't call you Bubba. To help Bridget get started, because you're another, I think, very needed voice right now. And
thank you.
The more people like yourself,
too.
Well, thank you. That we don't, I don't care if I'm canceled by whoever, but I just think it was a blessing in disguise that along my journey, I was never hired by TPUSA or Daily Wire or Blaze. And I tried, because when Daily Wire moved to Nashville about 2 to 3 years ago, I didn't know the things I know now. And I thought, I'm an up and coming influencer. Like, I may be on the little older side, but like, I think I could do well at this. And they showed zero interest. I wondered why. Now I'm like, God, thank you.
God's protection.
Because
literally,
yeah, you get in that world of you're programmed, and then you realize like your career's at stake if you step outside the lines. It's just funny that people think that is real news, what they're getting.
Yeah, no.
Because
it's a joke. I mean, anyone taking Daily Wire serious at this point, like, I get getting sucked up in the TPUSA stuff. I think it's kind of sad. I honestly think so many people just don't want to disparage Charlie, that they're just saying it's, I'm not going to disparage Charlie. And people say that, you're attacking Charlie when you attack his wife. And it's like, guys, some of the smartest people I've ever met in my life cannot read a person. Like, he wouldn't have had the social skills necessarily, just because he was brilliant, to sniff through Miss Arizona coming on to him. It's like, most guys I know would have gone for her. Like, it's so
yeah.
Anyway, I don't know what my point was with that, but
yeah, I get your point. All right. So guys, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you. Go to jslayusa.com, sign up, and you can watch the rest right now. Okay. So, Charlie Kirk's strange coincidences. I started making this list a while back, and then I just stopped. But tell me if you've got a point you want to add to this. All right. Okay. So the nature of the question asked when he was shot, they were asking him about gun control and trans shooters. He was shot right when he started asking this question. And oh, by the way, the shooter was like, had a transsexual or furry boyfriend, like, okay.
And had inscribed trans stuff on the bullets.
There you go. So again, it's like too perfect almost. All right. George Zen. Do you remember that guy? George Zen? He started
asking the question.
No, he started ranting and raving. He's this old man. He's got a history of false flag events. He was at the Boston Marathon bombing. He was on site, I think, during 9/11, and he happens to be at UVU campus on the day of. He starts acting exactly like a decoy the moment that Charlie was shot.
Yep.
He had a public endorsement for gubernatorial candidate Phil Lyman, who had just met with Charlie the same day. So on Phil Lyman's website, George Zinn is one of the endorsements. Weird. He met with Charlie backstage. See, and not all these are pointing to guilt. They're pointing to weirdness. Later, Phil Lyman reached out to me because I questioned him on X. Reached out to me. And he said, those endorsements are populated on their own by our website, and we have a zero censorship policy. Okay, maybe that's the answer. The shooter details and the timeline we were given in general, the changes of clothes, the Dairy Queen photo that nobody but Candace could produce, and the extremely odd text messages that basically after you make this 3-hour getaway, 3 hours, which it's like, I made it. I got out of this. I'm not being followed or questioned. Oh, but I'm gonna digitally text every single thing that I did and put that out over the airwaves.
In Old English or whatever weird language.
Yes.
Nobody talks like that.
Yeah. A boomer trying to create,
Yeah.
a fake
Conversation between furries.
You got it. Yeah. All right. So then you've got the plane transponder. There was that plane that took off 15 minutes after. Now, if some of this stuff may have been debunked or answered in a good way, but so the plane transponder goes off. There's a conflict between what the FBI is saying about it and what the plane owner is saying about it. The plane owners are tied to the Chabad Lubavitch sect of Jewish belief and Israel, the Chabad Lubavitch, which the Epstein files have said it is the Chabad Lubavitch that has too much power over the Trump administration. Okay?
These are no coincidences.
So if you go to the plane owner's website, it talks about the money that they have given to Chabad Lubavitch, and they're Christian. Like, it's super weird. Okay? I'm going to keep going here. Okay, here's one that I think I'd answer. Why did the Jewish rabbi write a letter about Charlie Kirk's assassination prior to September 10th? I think that one was answered. Do you know anything on that?
I haven't even heard that. I didn't know there was a letter.
Okay, I'm going to pull up the anybody that is on the chat. I'll check occasionally with you guys if you guys have anything to say on this. Why did UVU do a construction project and completely change the landscape, pave over with pavers of the crime scene, and this was complete within days?
Days.
Charlie's death.
Don't forget the camera that was in the tent that TPUSA for some reason got to take.
That's coming. I've got that. So then you've got Kash Patel talking about Valhalla, which, okay, I'm not into the conspiracy theory that Charlie's really alive.
I don't think so either.
And living.
He is dead. Very dead.
The Valhalla thing is weird on multiple levels because Valhalla is also on the computer screen in the background of some video game where Tyler Robinson is pictured in his dorm room. He's got this game that has Valhalla on the screen. Really weird. Charlie's Man of Steel neck. The neck stopped this 30-06 blade.
That was the beginning of the end. I think for so many people, they were like, are you fucking kidding? That was insane. And then that he was able to disassemble whatever the gun was that they were telling us he got killed by within 2 seconds, stuff it back into his backpack, and run off the roof. It was like, bro, no.
And I've said this before, but if they have all this evidence that it's definitely Tyler,